Hello and welcome to this channel. My name is Janet. I'm working through the King James's Bible. Today I'm in the book of Chronicles part 2 and I will be covering today chapters 23, 24 and 25. So if you're comfortable and you're ready, we shall get started. So just to give you a quick recap over yesterday's video and where we left off, we have a new queen now in the Judah camp, and she is quite evil because she's killed all of the heirs that were meant to come into line to become king, and she is now reigning over Judah. However, we have one son that she did not manage to kill because he was rescued by his aunt. She put him in the temple of the Lord, and he is there. He's 6 years old. And as we open chapter 23, it says, in the 7th year, so he must have turned 7 years old, we have the high priest there. His name is Jehoiada. Now he is strengthening himself because he knows he has the heir to the throne and he wants to make sure that he becomes king. So he makes a covenant with all of the captains of Judah to come and realize there is a king here ready. He wants them to protect him, so whenever he comes out of the temple of the Lord, they must surround and make sure he is safe. They can't go into the temple, only the Levites are allowed in there. But the king, when he comes out, well, the king-to-be, when he comes out, they must protect him. And so they make this covenant with the priest, and they surround the temple, so he's got that around him. Now the high priest, he gives them all weapons and shields, because on this day is when he is going to anoint Joash, that's the name of this young boy, he's going to anoint him king over the Judah tribe. So he has them all armed, these captains, they've got shields, they've got swords, they come out, they surround him, and he is anointed by the Levites, and they say, "Long live the king!" And there's a lot of celebrations going on and music playing, and the queen, Athaliah, she hears all this music and noise going on and she goes out to see what's going on. She goes towards the temple, she goes into the temple, and there she sees her grandson Joash there being hailed as king. And she is like, rips her clothes and she cries out, "Treason! Treason!" Now obviously she's outnumbered. There's not a lot she can do, and so the priest tells the army captains to take her and kill her, but outside, get her outside of the temple and do it there. And she leaves, she goes to the palace, they follow her there, and that is where she is killed. And anybody who follows her as well is killed along with her. So Jehoiada, the priest, he makes a covenant now with himself and with the people. And it is to follow God's word, the God of Israel, to follow his word, to worship in his laws, and just to be devoted to the God of Israel. So they all agree and they tear down all of those false gods of Baal. And they go into the temple of Baal that's been set up. The priest is there. They kill the priest. They destroy all the altars to Baal and they destroy the temple as well. So they get rid of all of that. Then they start to restore all of God's laws, so how the temple is meant to be run by the book of Moses, that it's there for the sacrifices. When they sin, they go there, they have a burnt offering, and the priests do their thing. That is all starting now to take form again. They're starting to live by the book of Moses. They also return to the palace and they place the new king on his throne at only 7 years old. So obviously he is going to be counseled by the priest. He's the one he's going to be listening to as he's reigning over Judah. And we end this chapter with everybody being happy and joyous that the queen is now gone and we have a new king, and peace reigns within the Judah tribe. So chapter 24 starts with Josh, the new king, at 7 years of age. And we learn that he reigned for 40 years. He has 2 wives and he ends up having sons and daughters, so he's expanding his kingdom. Next we learn that Joash sets out to repair the temple of the Lord. And he requests that the Levites go out and collect money from the people so that they can start rebuilding and restoring the temple. But the Levites don't act very quick on this, take their time, and so he goes to the head priest, hey, why aren't you going out there and collecting money from the people? What's going on? It's kind of like, why? Because look at what the queen has done to the place. She's been worshipping Baal and the whole place has been devastated inside the temple. You know, it's just been left to rack and ruins because she's been reigning for 6 years. And so he's now trying to get it back to where it wants to be, and he's wondering why they're all taking the time in not bringing this money together. So what happens is the king makes a chest. He has this chest made, and it's got a groove in it where they can place their money in collections for the people. So it's placed outside of the temple, and it's there for everybody to give and to start rebuilding this temple. So they want to get the money coming in. And so he does this by making a proclamation that this box here is outside to bring in money so we can rebuild our temple for the Lord. And the people are all rejoice about this, and so they start then bringing their gold and silver and whatever else they want to give, and they put it into this chest. And every day it's filled up, it's brought to the king, it's emptied, and then they bring it back out, it's filled again, and then they go and on until they have this abundance of gold, silver, and wealth that the Levites are then given by the king so that they can pay whichever craftsmen that they need to restore it. So that's what they do. The craftsmen come and they start restoring and getting the temple to exactly where it should be. Once they're finished, they have enough money left over to start working on the interiors, getting all the little vessels, eating utensils, and just making the place back to the way it was. So once it's restored, the temple is then back in full use and following that book of law written by Moses. That's how it starts operating now. We then learn that the priest, Jehoiada, he dies. He is the one that has been counseling Joash all of his young life in his kingdom and being king. Now he passes away at the age of 130 years. And he's buried in the city of David because of the work that he's done and getting the king to where he is. So he's done good work by the Lord, and so he is buried there in the city of David. Now, once the priest dies, the leaders of the Judah tribe bow down to the king, and he starts listening to them and their counsel, and it's not a wise counsel. For they did evil, they worshipped wooden and false idols, so he's going down a slippery slope. And sadly, the wrath of God is upon them. So, as always, God sends a prophet to give them a message. And this prophet is the son of the priest Jehoiada, who Joash had been counselled by before. So he is now sent by God to give Joash a message. And he warns them all, the king and the people, that if they do not follow God's commandments and laws, that they are not going to prosper. But they refuse to listen. And the king goes so far as to tell the people to stone Jehoiada's son to death. And that's what they do. They stone him to death. I mean, that's so wicked after what his father had done for him. And now he's killed his son. And just before his son dies, he cries out, "The Lord look on it and repay." He wants justice for what they have done to him. So the spring is here, and the Syrians are on the attack. And they're out to destroy all of the leaders of Judah, and that is what they do. Kill them one by one, are all killed. King Joash himself is badly wounded in this battle, but returns home. But the Syrians have taken all of their spoil, and the king of Damascus now has that. Now King Joash, he goes to his palace to rest as he's wounded, and his servants conspire against him, and they kill him, 2 of them, and their names are Zabad and Jehozabad. 2 bad names doing 2 bad deeds. So that sadly ends the life of King Joash. He started off so well, and look at where he's ended. So he is buried in the city of David, but he does not get a tomb in which to place his body. He's just buried there along with his fathers. And then we learn that his son, Amaziah, he becomes the next king of Judah. And this closes chapter 24. So our final chapter today is chapter 25, and Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king over Judah. He reigns for 29 years, And it says he's right in the sight of the Lord, but he's not loyal in the heart of the Lord. So we will find out shortly what that means. So once Amaziah gets into power, he then has the 2 servants that killed his father executed. But it says he doesn't kill their sons, because that was kind of ancient tradition back then. They would kill all of the sons as well for their father's sins, because they would have probably come back and revenged. But he doesn't do that. He kind of follows God's laws in that way, because God says, you know, the sons don't die for their father's sins. You die for your own sin, not somebody else's. So next we learn King Amaziah is getting ready for a battle with Edom. And he's rounded up 300,000 of the Judah and Benjamin tribe, but he's paid silver to acquire, or should I say hire, 100,000 men of the Israelite tribe. So he's gone over to the northern tribe, which are the ones who aren't worshipping God, they're worshipping false idols, and he's acquired some of their troops to go into battle with him. Now it says a man of God comes, another prophet from God comes to King Amaziah, and he tells him, look, do not bring the northern Israelite troops into this battle with you, because the Lord is not with them and you will surely fail. The war will not be won if they come with us. And King Amaziah says, well, what about all the silver I've just, spent to hire these guys? And the man of God says, look, don't worry about that. God will bring you much, much more. So King Amaziah listens to the prophet, and he tells the Israelite people that he's paid for, go back home to Assyria, you're not going to be needed for this battle. So he marches on forward with his 300,000 Benjamin and Judah troops to the Valley of Salt, and that is where they end up killing 10,000 people of Syria. They then capture 10 more thousand, and they get those and they cast them over these rocks, and it says their bodies are just shredded, they're killed in that manner as well. So this battle is won. Meanwhile, while this had all been going on, the troops that King Amaziah had sent home, they actually end up going into the Judah and some of their cities and towns and killing 3,000 of the Judah and Benjamin tribe and looting from them as they went back home. It's kind of like they were ready for war and they wanted to have some kind of win. So sadly they have attacked the Judah tribe. And this is partly due to the sin that he'd hired those troops in the first place. It's like, things don't go unnoticed and it's a balancing out, and unfortunately that's what's happened. He's gone. So as King Amaziah of the Judah tribe comes back from war with the Edomites, having that win, he also brings back their false gods and he starts putting them up and he starts worshipping them in Jerusalem. And this just makes God so mad. So again, God sends another prophet to have a word with King Amaziah. And this prophet says to him, why are you worshipping the gods of the people you have destroyed? It's like, aren't you more powerful than them and yet you're worshipping their gods? And Amaziah tells the prophet to cease talking. Who are you to be my counselor? Did I give you the position, and do you want to be killed next? And the prophet ceases, but he has one last thing he has to say. He says, I know God will destroy you if you don't heed my words. Amaziah then, King Amaziah, seems to be on this war mission, and he wants to go to battle now with the northern Israelite tribe, and that could be because they've looted from them and they've killed 3,000 of their men. He's wanting to go to battle, and they're outnumbered really, because it's a much more bigger tribe over there. There's 2 tribes, the Benjamin and Judah tribe on the southern side. On the northern side you've got 10 other tribes. So King Joash of Israel just tells him, look, you've had a victory, you've done really well over winning the Edomites, just stay home. Don't come over this way, because you are only going to cause problems for yourself and a lot of your people will die. Do you think King Amaziah listens to this? No. He wants a battle, so he's not going to stop without a fight, and that's what he gets. So they end up meeting, and we have this battle which takes place at Beth Shemesh. And sadly the Judah tribe are defeated because they are outnumbered. Amaziah, it says, was captured and taken to Jerusalem, and then the wall there is broken down and they take all of the gold and silver from God's temple. And they also take back with them hostages back to Samaria. Now it says King Amaziah, he lives for 15 years after the death of King Joash in Israel. And because he turned away from God, the people around him conspired against him. And so he fled from Jerusalem and he runs to Lachish. But unfortunately they catch up with him there and they kill him. They bring him back on a horse and then he's buried in the city of David. And that's where we close our final chapter for today, chapter 25. So we've had a lot of king changeovers, we've had a lot of good starts, but sadly very tragic endings. And so the demise is coming upon the Israelites, sadly. You know, one side has totally gone towards the false idol gods and gone well away from God. The other tribe is slowly following that path too. So we'll be continuing with more of these stories in the book of Chronicles 2 in tomorrow's video. So I hope this has been of use to you, and I'll be back again soon. Take care now. Bye.